dominant performance throughout the mid-game. Definitely a little bit of greed we saw from them in the early game, which they got punished for, but overall, the better plays.
Yeah, I definitely like to applaud them for, I think, being the better team overall. We'll see if Guest can bring it back here in game number 2. Of course, ETW looking as the better team there in that game number 1. And so they're going to try to, get 2 wins in a row to try to get those 3 points and get a lead in this group.
That is one of the most important things, of course, in this round-robin group where every team plays against every other team. You want to make sure you can get as many 3-point wins as you can because, if one of the other teams that's going to knock you out has gotten several 2-0s, and even if you go 1-1, 1-1, 1-1, that might not be good enough at the end of the day to actually advance to the next round.
And I'm not sure if we mentioned this before, but there is a tiebreaker scenario. There could be 3 teams that are tied. There could be 4 teams that are tied. If that kind of situation does come out, like imagine every team just goes 1-1 and everybody's only got 1 point from each of their matches, then there you go. You got a 4-way tie. And of course, that will be decided at the end of the day if that does come to fruition. After all, if there is no tiebreaker, we'll have the top 2 teams go up to the semifinals, of course.
That's right. And so it's going to be the top 2 teams from groups today, or our group today and group tomorrow. So today's Group A, Group B is tomorrow, and then, of course, on Sunday, we're going to have our final match with the semis and the finals. And the semis will actually, them itself, basically be a group because it's going to be double elimination. So you're going to have a winner's match, a loser's match. So, these teams that lose early on, especially in this group stage, are not out yet. But even if you don't, win in the semis in your first match, you do have a second chance. Everyone does have a second life. So we are going to be going to the next set very soon. Basically, I guess what we should describe to you guys is sometimes we're here in the Korea studio, sometimes we're in the China studio, so we'll be jumping back and forth. The tournament's not taking place here where we are right now. It's actually taking place in Shanghai. So that's where all the camera shots are. That's where all the production is, whereas we are just basically 2 guys wearing very nice suits.
Yeah, you guys they're nice because you got the flower coming in here. I don't want to hit the mic, but you got the flower on the suit. That's how you know you're next level in terms of suits.
It's OGN level production, man.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be a part of it.
Yeah.
So, roses are red, violets are blue. We're going to the next game soon.
Good one, Wolf. You're getting everybody excited for game number 2, that's for sure.
I know everyone just cannot contain their excitement right now.
Especially after that joke. That was next level, Wolf. Talking about that game a little bit, I would have to say that in terms of what Guests did wrong, you were talking about it a little bit during the game. Celeste, the positioning was kind of just not there. I mean, you're going up against Arona and an Arden on the opposite team. You cannot get jumped on. You cannot be caught in a gauntlet. You have to be all the way in the back, wait for your allies to get up in the front lines. You've got an Arden of your own. Let him engage, and then sit back, land your core collapse, try to get a big solar storm, and then work from there.
Yeah.
Instead of, it seemed like she was a little bit overeager at times, even early on in the game. She would try to 1v2, but even later in the team fights as well, just getting a little bit too far forward and just trying to kill everything when it was impossible.
And that's the thing, it wasn't even always, it wasn't a consistent problem, but sometimes when it mattered most, she was out of position. And the one thing that comes to mind was I think around maybe 8 or 9 minutes in the game where they had a huge win. It was a 2-for-0 trade, and she went into, I believe it was Rona in the lane, and just got killed for no reason because she was standing at the front. Instead of being behind Arden to let Arden kind of run in and tank a little bit and then try to drop those Helios to actually secure that kill. So again, just sometimes, both these teams did have their moments where they didn't have vision, they took a chance, they made, they took a risk and it did not pay off.
Yeah, and I was actually also very impressed by the Rona play on the opposite side. I'm trying to get a look here as we do have some kind of...
Yeah, we actually have a little bit of a replay up on the
Looks like it was Shifeng on that Rona. Definitely very well played to that guy, setting up lots of plays, just jumping in, knowing he had a lot of survivability, a lot of life steal, just able to survive for the fight and allowing Arden to also set up those big gauntlets as well.
Yeah, one thing we saw from Sky was a lot of really good, well-placed ults that did a lot to change the fights. And sometimes we saw that actually, be the game or almost the fight deciding factor. But it didn't end up working out enough of the time. I think maybe combining it a little bit more with that gauntlet would be good. Let's take a look at this replay. We have got it up on screen for you guys now.
Yeah, just some of these later fights that went on. You can see 2 of the members did get caught out here without Sky, and eventually Beyond G does go down. and this to set up a 3-on-2 scenario in which Anthony and little Andy couldn't really do much by themselves.
Yeah. For some reason, Triple A Anthony, or otherwise known as Anthony, as you like to call him, is on the account that says guests. I'm not sure what happened with that, but that is him, in fact. So that's why we refer to that player as Anthony, even though it says guests, which is confusing because their team name is also guests, or rather guest.
Yeah.
So again, you can see some of these fights here. The Celestial, or rather the Solar Storm, I was going to call it Celestial Storm, was really well placed, but it's just not enough. There's too much sustain with all the fountains that they have.
By this time, it's just way too late. They had way too much sustain. They had so much shield built on that team, and they were going up against a double crystal power composition with both Celeste and Sky. So you could also look at that as maybe one mistake that Guest made. Generally, you want to have one weapon power, one crystal power to try to make it harder for the enemy team to not just build one type of defensive item and just counter your entire team.
Exactly, because that is obviously so much easier to do than trying to build, both shield and armor to counteract both sides. So you need to have variety in your composition, and positioning is obviously really important. I think that was the biggest flaw that we saw there with Guess, was just simply Celeste's positioning was oftentimes not very good.
Yeah, so they do have a lot to learn before getting into Game 2, which I think is going to start very, very soon here, guys, so get hyped.
That's right. Just looking at the China side of things, we don't have them in-game just yet. But as we saw before, the draft that we're using is just simply going to be one ban and then blind pick. So it's not going to be your draft pick that some newer tournaments have started to adopt slowly. And so it's just kind of like old school. If you've been following Vainglory, the pro scene, it's going to be kind of how things started. And we're going to continue that way. That's why you see Arden on both teams, because it is blind in that way.
Yeah, that's what you got over here in the VIPL as well. Just so you get one ban. They're global bans, so one for each team. Those two heroes will not be able to play on each side. And then, as you mentioned before, a blind pick, so both teams could pick the same hero. Two Ardens. We've seen like double Celeste before, which is a lot of fun. Double Ringo, double Vox, stuff like that back in the day here at VIPL.
Yeah. Even every now and then double Adagio, one of my personal favorites. Who is your favorite hero?
I play Celeste a lot. That's like my main hero. I like to go in the lane, of course, as Celeste, and I think she just does so much damage. She got nerfed, I think, in 1.10. Her Solar Storm doesn't do quite as much damage. They were like, whoa, okay, this is a little bit too strong, but still a very powerful hero. And I just love the fact that everything that she does is a skill shot, so you have to aim everything. So it's a very high skill cap. You can always get better and improve. Yeah. And for me, that's a lot of fun.
Oh, I like Celeste a lot. I was playing her almost exclusively a few months ago. I played a lot of Fortress. I think, it's a super fun hero. My favorite is really tough. I don't know if I can actually pick one.
You used to play a lot of Adagio as well.
Yeah, Adagio is really fun. I've been playing a lot of Arden recently because, like I mentioned before in the broadcast, I like to kind of fill, and sometimes that roam spot is open for filling, and he's definitely my favorite right now for roam.
Yeah. Looks like we are back in China a bit here. You did see some frustration out of some of the members of Guests there, as they are desperately going to try to win this next game and try to salvage at least 1 point from this entire matchup against ETW.
That's right. It's still early here. This is just their first game of many in a round-robin group of 4 players, or rather 4 teams. So even if they go 0-2 here, they still have quite a few matches left to play, but momentum-wise, it's not where you want to be, losing early on like that, 0-2. So to put this into, I guess, a little bit more detail for you guys, this is not a best of 3, it's a best of 2, which, that's not a thing, a best of 2. It's not a best of 2. It's 2 games, though. It's a 2-game series where if you win both, you get 3 points. If you tie, both teams get 1 point. Obviously, if you lose both games, you don't get any points.
Yeah. So I guess it is kind of like a best of 2 because there's a result after the 2 games, so you get some kind of succession to where we are going in this tournament after those 2 games.
No, I'd say it's more just like a 2-game series. You play 2 games, the score determines how many points you get. So obviously winning 2-0 is going to be important, but it's not like if they go tied 1-1, then we play a 3rd game.
Yeah.
Well, these teams will only play against each other once in this round robin, and then they may face each other later on again in the tournament, obviously. But for this group, this is going to be the only time they match up against each other.
Yeah. So we are still waiting for them to get into this. I think that player that was frustrated was AAA Anthony. So we saw he was on the account guests, which is maybe given to some of the guests that do play over there in China. So maybe it's he who's having some of those technical issues. I know. Even just in my own house, if I've got technical issues, it's super frustrating. So if you're a pro gamer on stage and your thing is not working, then it's just like there's so much stress on you already, and you have to solve it then and there in the studio or on stage.
You play Celeste, so I know you ever see that high ping warning at the top left. You're like,
yeah.
no,
You can't play. It's
no,
just not gonna work.
like, yeah. I was getting a little bit of that last night. I wasn't on a good Wi-Fi connection. I was trying to play, and I was like, no.
Yeah.
It's really frustrating, obviously, when you're in that situation. So game 2 should be starting soon. I know we don't have it on screen for you guys, but I could cheat and look at the Chinese broadcast, look behind the commentators and see people are smiling. Well, some people are smiling, some people are frowning.
People are having a good time. It looks like ETW as a team
ETW is smiling.
Generally pretty happy after that win.
Yeah.
It was pretty dominant, as you mentioned. It was really just the early game where maybe there was a bit of nerves, maybe they thought they were much better than the other team, maybe they knew that coming in, and they were just like, oh, we could just kind of fool around. But after that happened and they started losing, they were like, oh, okay, we have to play our game. And that's when we really saw them come out, and we saw some of their great plays coming out.
So we have some delays. And
if it's not obvious already.
Yeah. So it will take us a little bit longer. There's this saying, I don't know who said it first, but basically we have esports as a vehicle.
I know exactly what you're gonna say. Wolf.
And sometimes tires flat. Okay. Sometimes you got to get the windshield replaced. Sometimes there's no gas.
Sometimes a rock flies straight into your windshield and it all cracks. You can't see like that. You got to get that repaired.
Sometimes you lose a tire. These sorts of things do happen. But the vehicle of esports is your device, in this case, your tablet, your phone. But we're in draft phase. Let's jump into it. We already have a Sky ban, a Rona ban, and we actually have lock-ins on Arden, Scarf. Why is her name?
Koshka.
Koshka, that's right. It's escaping me. And then we have Celeste, Koshka, and Arden. So 2 Ardens and 2 Koshkas apiece. It's just going to be Celeste versus Scarf again in the lane.
Yeah. I mean, if Koshka is going to be left open, you're going to pick Koshka. It's a very, very strong hero at this time in the patch 1.10, which we are playing on, of course. And so it does get picked up by both teams.
All right, so let's jump into match 2 here at the very starting matches of Group A. An easy to win versus guest. We have Ernst in the lane here on Scarf, and little Andy again playing his favorite Celeste in the lane.
Yeah, we'll see if he plays a bit more passive this time around. I know that some players, they just play an aggressive Celeste. This happens, if you go Celeste versus Celeste on the ladder even, you'll have, maybe your opponent is just ultra aggressive towards you and you end up out farming her anyway because she's over aggressive. I hope that little Andy kind of takes the tone from last game and takes that into effect here.
Now, little Andy is actually rotating down very quickly here, and we do have a big skirmish. Xifeng taking a lot of damage, and down he goes. Remix taking some damage as well. It wasn't even really little Andy who was able to, turn the tide of that battle. It's just that Ernst stayed in lane very long, and by the time he arrived, they already had a pretty big advantage. So Guest will take an early lead here.
Just a very early lead happened in the last game as well, just getting 1 kill. Looks like AAA Anthony on that account guess was able to pick up some more farm. But look at this, Remix getting caught out all alone against Celeste and an Arden. With Koshka on the other side even, they're gonna try to break him down here. 1 more shot will do it.
He had 1 second left to cool down on his shield, and he just barely was able to get that off and escape. But again, we're seeing the same sort of trend that we saw in the early game last game, is that Guest does make the better decisions when it comes to these early jungle skirmishes and invades, and these little mini ganks, if you will. But we'll see if they can keep up the momentum this time as they failed to last time.
So just some trading going down here in the lane. As you guys can see, little Anthony running out of energy. we saw in the last game, likes to build that very early Void Battery into the Frostburn and then Broken Myth follow-up. So it likes to go very aggressive with his build order in terms of items as well as in his playstyle, as we were mentioning before. So I wouldn't be surprised if he does the same here. There's no Rona on the other side this time, but there is a Koshka, so maybe a bit of an earlier reflex block to avoid that ultimate.
It's really important to get that. Also keep in mind, Koshka, while she is a crazy quick damage dealer, she's basically an assassin, does not have the same sort of tankiness that someone like Rona will actually give you. So definitely we're going to see a different game here, despite the fact that many of the heroes remain the same. It's just that lack of Rona makes the composition so different.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting, though, that once again, we do have guests running a double Crystal Power comp. We'll hold that thought, we're going to have a team fight.
Yep. Big fight here. Little Andy takes a ton of damage, even though they had the hero advantage. And Remix is at the front doing just what he needs to do to tank. And it looks like it is going to be Koshka that falls first here. And the team fighting continuing to be better here for Easy to win, as they're now trying to chase down little Andy. He should be able to escape here pretty easily, but being very aggressive there. Again, this is the kind of positioning problems we were talking about, is having Celeste up at the front like this can cause you a lot of grief.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what went wrong there for Guess. I think, as you mentioned before, AAA Anthony just getting a little bit too far forward in that team fight. Oh, we're going to have another trade here.
Yep, we just see Remix jumping in here. He's definitely going to have to back off as Ernst is not really available. The trades that we're seeing, it looks like, is similar to what we saw last game. Is basically Easy to win is trying to force these small skirmishes while Ernst is farming. So he's actually able to control the lane farm and get ahead in that way. And they're committing to sometimes even 2v3s and not dying because they just retreat, and they're buying, again, more time for Scarf to get that farm.
We are going to have a little two-man invade here, but the three members of ETW are grouping up. Guess has to be very careful how far they do get into that enemy jungle. Does turn out to be successful. They don't really get any minions there, maybe one or two, but they do get some nice forward scout traps for some nice vision in those forward brushes.
Yeah. Again, notice that Ernst jumps right back in the lane. He's getting all that extra farm that currently Celeste is missing.
We actually saw that out of PQQ over here in the VIPL. Druid, a guy I mentioned before, a very strong laner, but strong because his team allows him to just farm all game long and then have this giant powerhouse team later on.
Well, this is definitely not going to be the fight that ETW wants, but can they turn it around? Shifang taking a ton of damage, backs off, and it looks like they're just going to have to retreat, poking as they back off. Shifang does fall. This is going to be a good win to the initial fight here for Guest. Well, they're not going to be able to follow things up in the fight. They will take this opportunity, however, to take the gold mine, which spawned just a minute ago.
Yeah, Remix is trying to poke in here and actually trade himself, but he's going 1v3 and he's just going to give up a free kill. And not much that Scarf can do alone, so that's going to be the gold mine going over to Guest very early on in this game.
Well, there you have it. Just trying to do what he could, but sometimes, you know, you have to let those objectives go, or they're gonna get the objective and get you. And this means, again, now Ernst can continue to farm freely, and things have gone quite highly in the favor of Guess with that exchange. Because now, even if you look at the gold, the total gold for both teams are only 100 gold ahead, but having that gold mine is so much extra pressure.
And you get control once again of just the middle of the jungle, which is so strong in this game of Vainglory. There's not all that much room there in that area of the map. We are seeing little Andy here just farm once again under the turret. More pressure being put down here by ETW. Maybe they want to do a bit of an invade or think about trying to take back that gold mine, but they are going to have to clear out all these scout traps first before they think about sneaking that.
Yeah. I really like actually some of these camera shots are seeing the Vayne in a whole new light.
Yeah.
Taking that look at the jungle from the opposite perspective. All right, well, this is a bit more of a passive start of this game here than we saw last game. Not a whole lot of action here. We do see a three-man push up here from Guest to push this lane down.
Oh, they're actually going to take the minion mine decently early. We do see it on the other side as well from Guest. And just going to put a little bit of pressure down in these lanes. And as they are even, no big gold advantage going to either side. And while we do have some downtime here as the teams are posturing, I want to mention once again what I was talking about before. Both teams running a double crystal power composition and lots of shield being built on both sides of the Halcyon Fold on a lot of the different members from both teams.
Well, we do see Akash Gold going down here onto AAA Anthony, and he will be picked off instantly. And that removes a lot of damage. You know, so it's going to be a tough fight here for Guest to actually bring it back. They're just going to have to retreat, which will cause them to lose quite a bit of this jungle farm. Looks like Easy to Win is even going to chase and push the issue further to the opposite side of the Halcyon Fold, as you said, and Beyond G is going to go down here, playing very greedy there, staying around way too long, hoping that the respawning Koshka was going to be able to come over and save him, but it was just not to be.
Yeah, just trying to get some of those minions in the jungle before he went down, I suppose. It's very hard to run away from Koshka. But look at this, I mean, they're going to lose another member. Koshka on the other side, AAA Anthony is going to try to come in here, but will quickly run away as he realizes he is heavily outnumbered. But that will be the gold mine, once again, going over to ETW this time.
Yeah, and they got a decent gold payout. Obviously, the only downside to that was they did lose Scarf's ult, so that's going to be on cooldown for 70 more seconds, because he kind of preemptively used that in fear. But I think definitely worth it to make sure they secure a decent gold payout and, of course, obviously regaining the control of the middle of the jungle. Such an important momentum swinger.
Also, you notice in that last team fight just how important it is to get the jump on the enemy team when there's a Koshka on both sides and no one's really built a reflex block just yet. It's like, okay, we need to get that ultimate down first in order to get that very, very long stun coming out from the ultimate of Koshka.
Yeah, this character is what people call in esports and professional gaming a glass cannon. It's something that does a ton of damage but is killed easily. So if you can actually get the ult off on their Koshka first and she's stunned, she can get killed very quickly. Then all of that damage that she has is just gone. It's not there. It's not available. So it's a huge momentum swinger.
Yeah, and if you can kill her before he goes down, then they're not going to have their Koshka ultimate, which is a huge game swinger. So
that's target number one, priority number one in these team fights oftentimes. A little bit more passive here as these two teams are just trying to clear out scout traps.
Yeah, liking the little camera shots we're getting of the players playing, of course, on stage in front of a live audience. Lots of pressure on these guys to do well, lots of money on the line, but more importantly, as you mentioned before, is the seed into the VIPL Season 2, the most prestigious Vainglory League in the world at this point.
Yeah, if you play in that league, you can say, I am one of the best players in the world. I am.
Oh, yeah.
I am the best. I play in the best, the hardest, the most difficult tournament. As you can see with this Easy to Win's rotations here and controlling the vision, they have secured, another defense of the gold mine, and they're waiting for that payout. Not too far away, not too soon either, but Xifeng getting caught out here, but let's see if Remix and Ernst can actually come in and clean things up. Very slow start to this fight here. Little Andy taking a ton of damage, and he will be the first to fall. Again, positioning himself at the wrong side of the battle. We do see AAA Anthony and Beyond G trying to disengage back. Not going to happen though, and Ernst and Remix going to just kind of take some farm on their way out. And even though both sides lose a member, I still have to give the advantage to Easy to Win because they still control the gold mine, and they did steal some of that farm on their way out.
Yeah, I mean, they're just allowing themselves more time to get that big, immense gold payout at the end of it all, get 300 for everybody on their team. They're just buying more and more time. They're taking more map control, even though you could say Xifeng got a little bit caught out there by the gauntlet of Arden. He was the only one that got caught, no stuns went down. And the Scarf was allowed to sit back there and get a gigantic ult off on little Andy, which eventually did take him down very easily. There was a big fight between the two Koshkas, which Xifeng did eventually lose, but after all, it wasn't that big of a deal.
And there's a small 20-second window where AAA Anthony actually has his ult, and the other Koshka does not. So in 10 seconds, he's going to miss that opportunity.
That actually would have been a great time to fight for them, but it looks like AAA Anthony on that guest's account just took a little bit too much damage before the fight. That would have been a fantastic time to fight, as you did mention, but not going to come to fruition.
Yeah. Again, just controlling the gold mine, just waiting for that payout. Playing very carefully, playing very safe. We've heard Chinese teams love to play. All right, we're going to see an engage here on AAA Anthony, and oh man, down he goes. No ability to use his ult, gets caught. And that's, again, like you said, the most important thing in these fights. When you've got double Kosh, get so much damage removed, and if you can get it for free before its ult goes off, then that's it. You know, that's a game swinger. And we're even going to see Scarf back, excuse me, not Scarf, Koshka back, the buy. She hasn't bought anything yet, which is kind of surprising, but she did back there instead of pushing the issue.
Maybe just getting a lot of those minions in the jungle and just going back, regenerating that health. But that is going to be a immense gold payout going towards ETW, furthering their lead by 3,000 gold now. If they can control it up until the Kraken, they are going to be so far ahead. It's looking like ETW trying to secure their spot and get those 3 points to start off the event.
Also, so far living up to their name, easy to win.
Yeah. Easy to get those wins, I suppose, for themselves.
Well, we do see that Guest is going to take their minion mine back to relieve some of the pressure on the turrets here. Okay, we're going to have another fight. Koshka, no ult, and look at this. Gauntlet comes down. Little Andy not even in the fight, and down goes AAA Anthony. Shifeng on the chase here. Bianji looks likely to fall as well. Some missed heliogenesis, that's hard to say. And Remake's getting a bit ahead of himself here.
They really want this kill. I don't know if it's going to go down. I think this is a bad idea. Solar Storm coming down. Little Andy not really taking all that much damage at all. Still thinking about it. He's going to put down a bit of damage, but eventually just going to back off.
Oh, look at that Remake's bait. Man, he wants him to attack him while he's recalling. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, but that fight was just like the essence of why Guess is losing these games. Like, the positioning was just not there. Once again, little Andy was in the lane. The other guys had no vision of their own tri-brush there near the gold mine. They're just chilling, killing one minion, and all of a sudden they get jumped on by an Arden. You have to have an immense amount of vision in order to venture out even that far in your own jungle when you are behind against an Arden. And the Koshka as well. And as we said before, it started off 3-on-2. The enemy Koshka goes down immediately, and it's a 3-on-2 without your own Koshka ult. What are you going to do from that position? You're not going to do at all. There's nothing you can do. So, I mean, ETW,
man. You're DED dead, man.
Yeah, for sure. So it's like ETW doing everything very smartly. They play as a team. Seems like they have a lot of experience together and playing it out very well. Whereas Guest, not the best teamwork so far or position, I'd have to say.
Yeah. Easy to win, just going to group up here again. The Kraken does give them that 153 gold, decent payout. And you know what? They look like they just want to posture here in the bush. They're going to clear vision. Notice they check the bushes, they check vision. They're going to make it appear that they are in fact taking the Kraken. They're going to bait a fight. If Guest doesn't respond, they lose the Kraken for free. If they respond, they walk into a trap. And let's see if that trap goes off here. Koshka jumping onto little Andy. A very late gauntlet here, but it will trap multiple members. Ernst's getting very low, but he should be able to survive here. And there he does, and it looks like it's going to be an ace. And from that, they can probably push down a turret and or get Kraken. I think they might be able to do both.
You know, similar situation to last game. This is exactly what they did. And once again, just getting the jump was ETW. They get the Koshka ultimate off on the enemy Koshka. Guess, or rather, AAA Anthony was able to survive, but when he did his ult, he actually ulted into the enemy gauntlet from Arden, so he got immediately stunned. It was just a very ugly fight once again for Guest, and they're going to get even further behind from that.
Yeah, they don't have enough time to get in here and stop the Kraken. They know that. So just when the minions lose their ace buff, they're going to get it again because the Kraken will spawn. They can go over here now and buy, as you guys can see, the secret shop down in the jungle. And picking up some really big items here, including another fountain, which obviously is going to give them 2 fountains, which they can, keep each other alive through thick and thin. Basically just going to be alive forever, unlimited sustain.
Yeah, nearly a 7,000 gold lead at this point. You do see Scarf up on 3 items at this point. We do have a pretty tanky Koshka from Shifeng with only a broken myth, lots of sustain. And on the opposite side, you really can't say much of the same. More of an offensive Koshka coming out from AAA Anthony on that guest account. And now they're going to have to try to stop this Kraken push.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy. Oh man, already Koshka goes down. There goes the Arden, and little Andy trying to use his boots to escape. It looks like he might just barely. Nope. And that is going to be game. Easy to win is going to take their first 2 wins. I wouldn't say super duper easy, but decently easy wins there to get their first 3 points.
Pretty easy to win in that, and you guys get a little look at the items before we do finish that off. A little bit of what I was saying before, but easy to win, looking like a very strong team coming into this Invitational.
Yeah, taking 2 wins like that and going to lead Group A. Now, this is just one match of many. Coming up next, we are going to have Guest versus IDO, but before we do that, guys, we are going to have a short 15-minute break, so during that time, spread the word, get everybody in here, come to this OGN Global channel, and we'll see you after the break. So, looks like we need a little bit more time, but shortly, though, we will have a break, and we'll see you guys at that time in just 15 minutes. See you then.